In this video, I'm going to show you the top 5 most common questions that Costa asks in their interviews, and I'm going to help you plan really good answers that will get you a job working at Costa. So let's start with the most common question, which is what shifts can you do at Costa? And they're going to be very interested in knowing the times that you're available for work. And if your availability doesn't match what the company needs, it's going to make it very difficult for you to get the job. And you also have to know how to answer this question properly to be successful. So let's look at the elements of a good answer. So firstly, you want to show off as much flexibility as possible. You want to highlight that you're very reliable. You want to say in your interview that you're very reliable and that you're going to be there on time. You want to try as best as you can to match their needs. You do that by first looking at the job advert. If it says the times that they are looking for, make sure you mention that you can work those, and that you want to show as much flexibility as possible, because if you are saying that you can't work certain times and that matches up with what they actually need, then they're going to probably go with a different candidate. And fundamentally, you want to show that you're actually committed to your job and you take it seriously. The way that people mess up this question is they list all the times they can't do and then say that they can work all the other times, which is a very negative way of doing it. You don't want to volunteer any information that's not going to help you get the job. So you want to be focusing on all of the times that you can do, and rather than just going through all the times that you can't do. They may not even ask about the times that you can't do. Focus on what you can do. And let's now plan a good answer. So some phrases you may want to use in your answer is that you're happy to work to meet business needs. That's showing a lot of flexibility. If you are very flexible, you could say that you can work the full range of store opening hours. That's really about the perfect answer. If you're happy to work some weekends, you could say that you're happy to work a mixture of weekdays and weekends. Of course, you don't want to be working the weekends all of the time. You don't want to say that, but you want to use the phrase a mixture because that seems fairer. Then you could say that you're happy to work at short notice if that's something that applies to you. And you could also mention that you're open to overtime. The job is advertised a certain number of hours. You can say you're happy to work those hours, though should you need extra staffing, I'm happy to do some extra hours. And that shows even more flexibility. You may not be offered any overtime, but just volunteering it is a really positive thing in your interview. So let's move on and look at another super important question, which is what can you tell me about Costa? Obviously, this is not the sort of question you want to make up on the day. You have to actually have done some research and some preparation, and I'm going to help you with that preparation. So if you're asked this question, there is a certain way that you answer it that helps you score well. And we're going to look at the diagram for that idea. So the first thing you do is you start in the middle of that diagram. You start with the really obvious facts. Make sure that you say the things that everybody knows about the company to show that you've got a grasp on the basics. Then you want to show off that you've done some research. That's the way that you just drop in a few facts about the company that only people that have actually read about the company would know. And then to really go that step further, you want to impress them. You want to drop in 1 or 2 pieces of information that perhaps they don't even know, or that only people who've done a lot of research would actually know. So let's run through the key facts that you could use in your interview. So as I say, the first thing you do is you just state the obvious. So they are a cafe chain or a coffee house chain. That's what their business is based around, but they are more than that. They really sell, in the same way as Starbucks, consistency. If you go for a Costa Coffee in London or you go in Glasgow, you're going to get a very similar experience. The stores are standardized. All of the menus are very standardized and they use the same blends, so you know exactly what you're getting. If you go to an independent store in London and then an independent cafe in Glasgow, you'll get a very different experience. But Costa is showing that consistency. They have their signature blend. They have their own roasting facility in London that prepares their coffee for their stores. They are very proud of their ethical sourcing, so think about free trade. That's very important to them. They have some stores that are franchised, so some of them you may be applying to one company that owns a group of stores, or even just one store, or it may be that one of the high street chains that you know actually owns a Costa within their larger store. So you want to know who actually owns the one that you're applying to, or you may actually just be applying to Costa itself. There's lots of different variations. It has an international business. It's not just in the UK. That's where it started, but it's expanded to over 30 countries now and is growing very quickly. They have a vending business. So you don't just have to go to a store. You could go to a convenience store rather than just a Costa Cafe, and you can get some Costa products from vending machines, and that's a big business. They're also now sold in supermarkets, so you can actually buy the signature blend and buy Costa drinks in various supermarkets throughout the UK, and that's an expansion in their business. They offer click and collect, so you can actually order online, go into the store, and it'll be ready for you. You have a loyalty program and you want to check the current Costa loyalty program. It does change every so often, so go on their website, make sure you know what the current loyalty program is, how it works, how you earn points. That's a good thing to have as knowledge in your interview. They were founded in 1971, and they were founded by brothers Bruno and Sergi Costa, and these are names that you should know. I would memorize those and say those in the interview. That's where the name Costa comes from. It was for a long time owned by Whitbread. They bought it off those two. It's now part of the Coca-Cola company. They took over the business. You ought to check who owns it now, because that's a good fact to know. Currently is the Coca-Cola company. It probably will be for a long time. They sponsor the Costa Book Award, and they have for a very, very long time. Because remember, cafes and reading go together, so that's the matchup there. And my next top tip is it's a good idea to learn the menu so you know about the company, you know exactly what they're offering. And they've got on their website a page called Our Story. And you can read that, and that gives you a little bit more detail about the facts that I've discussed here. So what I'd recommend you do is take a screenshot of this page, take some notes, and be prepared and ready to discuss these sort of things in your interview. And that shows that you've got good knowledge of the company. So let's move on to another question, which is, why do you want to work for Costa? As with the previous question, this isn't one that you want to just make up on the spot. You want to have actually thought about this, and I'd recommend that you do some bullet points so that you've got a basic answer and then practice it a few times, because it's so likely to come up and it's such an important interview question. So let's look at the sort of things that you could have on your list as reasons why you want to work there. And you're not just thinking about why you personally want to work there, but thinking about the sort of answers that they're looking for and the sort of things that would help you score well. So the first thing is think about what you would enjoy working at Costa. If you're applying for this job and you've decided this is somewhere you want to work, there must be some sort of reason. And if you're giving lots of reasons why you would enjoy the job and saying that you would enjoy the job, that suggests that you're going to stay there perhaps a little bit longer and that you're really motivated to do that job. So do you enjoy working in cafes? Do you have experience working in similar places? Do you love working with customers, meeting lots of new people? Do you like the cafe environment? These are things that you could talk about as reasons why you want to work there. You could think about, how does it match your skills? If you've worked in, say, restaurants before and that's something you're really good at, if you're really good at working with customers, if you provide great customer service, if you're a very sociable person, these are all reasons why a job at Costa may actually match your skills well. And so you're applying here because you think it is a good match for your skills, and do say that. You could also talk about career progression. Do you want to, in the future, be an assistant manager, be a manager, and you see this as somewhere where you can actually build a career? Then you want to talk about that. If you have used Costa for many years, you've been a customer, and you have positive things to say about the company, you could talk about your brand affinity. So that means your like and interest in the brand from a customer perspective. And whatever you do, be enthusiastic. When you're answering this, be really smiley and really intrigued and interested in the idea of being able to work for Costa. Some things that you must avoid, and they are things that people say, is they say that they live very nearby, so it's convenient. Well, that's not going to interest them, and it's a really negative thing to say. If you give the idea that you just got to earn some money, so you're applying for it because it pays a salary. And for entry-level jobs, it's going to be close to minimum wage. So the money aspect shouldn't be a big motivator, because lots and lots of companies are going to pay similar amounts. Then the other thing that people do that's really bad is they give the idea in their interview that they want to work here for a very short time. And the idea is you're getting this job, but you want to get a better job. And to be honest, the time to talk about leaving a company is not the interview to get the job at that company. So never give the idea in an interview that you plan on leaving, or that this isn't a very good job and you'd like a better one later. That's not the way to do it unless you're talking about long-term career progression and earning a higher level in the company. And that's completely different. And basically, when you're planning your answer, think, is the person interviewing me at Costa going to care about this? And if the answer is no, don't say it, because it's irrelevant, and at worst, it could harm your chance of getting the job. So focus on things that make you look like a good employee and someone who's really enthusiastic and motivated to work at Costa. And that's how you're going to be successful. So let's look at some inspiration of some things that you could say. So you talk about how you like the Costa brand. If you're interested in progression, you can talk about that. Make sure it's within Costa. If you really love working with customers, be clear about that. They want to employ people that are good at dealing with customers, are friendly and passionate about customer service. Linked to enjoyment of previous related jobs. If you've worked in similar industries, you've worked in cafes before, you've worked in restaurants, you've worked in any customer service job, talk about how you enjoyed that. If you think that this is a place where you can learn new skills, if you're early in your career, you can say that you're really enthusiastic and interested in taking part in the training program that's been very well reviewed, that Costa is known for having a good training program, and that's going to help you upskill early in your career. If you know someone who has worked at Costa or works there, you don't have to name them, but you can talk about how you know people that work in the company and then share in their enthusiasm and say some of the really positive things that they've told you about the company and why they suggested that you should apply to this job. So that is how you score well on the why do you want to work for Costa. I'd take some time to use this slide to bullet point some things that you could say and learn a basic answer, and you'll come across really confident and well organized. Let's look at the next one, which is a question that sometimes catches people out, which is, what is your favorite Costa product? Now, the worst answer you could give to this is, of course, I don't know. The second worst answer is just naming the product and then just that being it. You want to actually give a good, strong answer that shows your knowledge of the company and shows that you're going one step beyond what other people might do. Most people will just name a product. You want to go further and give a better answer and show off some knowledge. So the first thing you do is maybe look at their website, look at their menu, and pick one product and make sure that it's a Costa branded product. Don't pick something you can get anywhere. Link to something that's got Costa's name on it, because that's their product and it's not so generic. The next thing you do is think about what makes it great. What do you enjoy about it? And then say the things that you really like about that product. Then mention that it's value for money. It's not too expensive and it's affordable. And that's one of the things that you think is good about it. It's great as a product. It's absolutely delicious. It's amazing, but it's also good value and affordable. You can then mention consistency, that you've had this product at several different Costa locations and it's always been the same high quality. And that's one of the reasons you like it, because you know exactly what you're getting. You could mention the in-store experience. It's not just the product, but it's also this store environment, the cafe environment that Costa provides, that you don't just like the product, you like actually going into their locations. And then the last thing you can do is you can think about why it's better than other coffee shops. So is this something unique? For example, you're talking about signature blend, that you've drunk coffee at other coffee shops, but it doesn't taste quite as good as signature blend, that this is your favorite one. And you can say things like that. So basically work through each thing on this list and you will build a really strong answer. So just make sure that you've got one ready. They may ask it, they may not, but the worst thing you can do is not have one. And if you're struggling to think of one and you do drink coffee, just go for signature blend. And that would be a perfectly reasonable answer. And you can talk quite a lot about signature blend. So I hope this question was helpful. Let's move on to the next one, which is often for many people a wasted opportunity. So don't waste it. Actually plan a good answer, because people mess up this question and they don't get the full value out of it. They just say their job titles and hope the person figures out why this is going to be useful. You have to do the work for them. You have to show them that you have the right experience. And so don't just say your jobs and explain how this is going to make you better at working at Costa. So let's run through how you do it. So the first thing they want is relevant skills. Then they want nothing negative. So they may dig into your work experience and try and find some negative things. And you want to be ready for those sort of questions. And if there's the right skills and there's nothing horribly negative in your history, then they are thinking that you're a potential hire. You've got the skills. There's nothing that worries them. maybe they could hire you. And this question really can tilt them towards hiring you. So let's look at how you answer it. So the first thing you do is you give your full job title. Don't say things like, I worked in a restaurant. Say which restaurant and what your exact job title was. Don't just say the basics. Give them the full job title. Then say what you were responsible for. Explain what you actually did. Because when you're explaining what you did in that job, they are going to be listening to that and matching it to what you're going to be doing at Costa. And they want to see that you've done the same things as you're going to be doing here. That's the experience. And if you don't explain it and tell them what you did, they might not necessarily see that you have as much experience as you really do. The next thing you want to have ready is a reason for leaving, just in case. They may ask, so why did you leave that job? And you want to have a good reason. So never say anything negative about a former employer ever. It could just completely blow your chance of getting the job totally. It's the worst, one of the worst things you can do in an interview. Don't say anything negative and think of a reasonable reason. Say you moved house, you found a better job somewhere else that paid a slightly more competitive salary. You got some progression. These are good things to say. Have a reason ready just in case they ask, but you don't want to be caught off guard by that. And then the most important thing is explain why this experience will make you a great hire. So you can talk about how you were successful in your previous jobs and how you did a good job there. Not just that you worked there, but you were really good at your job, and think about all the skills that you learned there. So fundamentally, my tips for success is say what they want to hear. They want to hear that you have the experience. They want to hear you show that you have the experience from your previous jobs that are going to make you good at working at Costa, and really just show that you have the right skills, that you can work with customers, that you've worked in a store environment, whether a cafe, even a supermarket, anywhere where you're interacting with customers, and you've dealt with the sort of normal things that come up with that. You've handled customer complaints and so on. These are the things that you can talk about. So before we finish, here is a bonus. These are some good questions that you could ask at the end of your interview. So you could say, as I'm very interested in this position, I'm eager to know the next steps in Costa's hiring process. Show that you really, really care about getting the job. And also, you probably do want to know this anyway. You want to know, when are you going to find out whether you've got it or not? You might want to ask them, can you tell me more about the training program for new hires at Costa, and be really interested in what training you're going to get, and talk about how that will be really helpful to you, and give the idea that you are going to get the most out of the training and you're going to take it very seriously. You could say, is there anything that you would recommend a new hire do before starting to be well prepared if successful at interview? And if they suggest that you should do a few things, for example, learning the menu, you can commit to doing that before you start, to show that you really care about being good at your job, and being well prepared is important to you. Then you may want to ask, what are the characteristics of exceptional Costa employees? And they might tell you what they're looking for and what they hope to find in a good employee. And you can talk about how you have the skills and the personal qualities to match that. And then the last thing you might want to do is try to think up and just invent one question on the day to show that you've really been listening to what they've been saying, and it makes it a little bit more spontaneous and interesting. But do double check that it's an appropriate question before you ask it. Never ask about pay in the interview. You should know that before you go there. Don't try and negotiate your salary, because that's very negative. Only ever negotiate one if you can negotiate, which is unlikely in the majority of roles, unless there's something very special about you, or it just goes down very negative, because if you're going to negotiate salary, they could actually just employ someone who's not going to negotiate. Only ever negotiate after they've decided that they want you, but you're probably going to have limited scope there at Costa. And never, of course, ask about holidays, sick pay, anything like that. It goes down very badly. So I hope this was helpful to you. I wish you the absolute best of luck at your Costa interview and hope you get the job. If you do, please post in the comments below, and also put what questions you were asked, so people can see what other questions, and we can build up a nice database of everything that comes up. And finally, like and subscribe below, and thank you very much for watching.